what we can expect from the discussion between the two leaders is Steve Baker, Conservative MP for Wickham, who's also an officer of the group Conservative Friends of America. Welcome to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, nice to come into the studio, see a human being in the flesh, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving what you've done.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Oh, we were painting last night. Anyway, everything's black.
So far, what have you made of this trip? And it's going to be quite interesting later on, isn't it?
It's been great news that we can now expect travel to resume. You know, it's not just about tourism, it's also about business, it's about families getting back together. So that's really great news for people who haven't seen friends and family for a long time. The Prime Minister's obviously going to be addressing the UN and trying to work with President Biden towards COP26, and I don't doubt that Liz Truss will want to make more progress towards a free trade agreement. So I'm pretty optimistic that this is a good inflection point in our relationship.
But is it? Because there was a hope that there would be some sort of trade deal announced today. That's not going to happen. The Prime Minister says, well, let's wait for a great deal rather than rush into a bad one. But we've heard that many times.
I'd be really disappointed if Boris Johnson rushed into a bad deal. You know, it'd be a huge controversy at home. The US is always a ruthless negotiator. Even amongst friends, we should expect them to, negotiate hard. So I wouldn't expect the PM to rush in. But, I would say that free trade, free markets, shared security with the USA has never been more important. And that's why I'm so pleased we've relaunched Conservative Friends of America.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. I mean, what does that mean and what are you doing there?
So what I'm expecting next year, it's Liam Fox's lead, but I'm expecting to find we have about 4 projects through the year. We'll do something, for example, we'll start off with the basics, with free trade, free markets, and then we'll go over and meet Republicans and discuss how together we can help build up both our bonds of friendship and our own political ambitions for our country's prosperity.
You say build up bonds of friendship. I mean, but where are we with this so-called special relationship? Joe Biden doesn't seem... He's pro-Irish. He's pro-EU, doesn't seem particularly friendly to us at the moment. Didn't tell us about Afghanistan. There are lots of things that, if Boris Johnson wants to be straight with him, that they need to discuss.
I don't doubt there's plenty to discuss, but I think the AUKUS agreement that we've just struck with the USA and with Australia, it's really good news. It's good news for Australia and it's good news for the whole world, that they'll be better, more capable.
France ain't happy.
Well, France is not happy, no, but I don't wish to wade into that diplomatic spat. I mean, President Macron's a very accomplished politician. I feel confident this is a diplomatic row which is very much in his command, so I don't want to wade into it. But I'm very pleased that our friends in Australia will have nuclear-powered submarines.
So you don't believe that French-Anglo relationship is tarnished? Because it's very further from what we heard earlier on with General Dominique Trinquant.
Yeah, he was angry.
Well, pretty angry.
I regret that, and I've met the French and the French ambassador often enough to know they're not keen on Brexit. But I'm keen that we have a very good partnership with the French enduringly into the future. They're our near neighbours. We need them, in particular on energy with the interconnectors. So, let's try to be constructive. That's my message. Well,
you say not keen on Brexit. I mean, are they beginning to realise that Britain can actually do its thing on its own?
Well, I think that's become clear for the whole world to see now. We are striking those free trade agreements. We're acceding to the TTIP, not TTIP. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, so TPP. We're also doing AUKUS, and I think this does show the whole world that we are capable of standing on our own 2 feet outside the European Union and dealing as sovereign equals, and I'm very pleased to see it coming real.
So when you have a chat with the French ambassador, is it friendly?
Whenever I've seen European ambassadors, it's always been constructive. I think because of my role with the Eurosceptics, they're always keen to speak to me to try and get an insight into what backbenchers think. And I've always tried to be at once honest with them, friendly, and also to advance our interests insofar as that's been up to me. But, of course, it's not for backbenchers to negotiate.
This is a hell of a moment for Liz Truss, isn't it? I mean, straight into the fray, isn't she? I'm
very pleased for Liz. She's done a fantastic job on trade policy. I worked really hard as a backbencher to help develop that policy, and she's been delivering the government's plan, fantastically.
And just back to America, I mean, you'll be going over soon, I presume?
Well, I hope so. I've been there many times before, both for business and for pleasure, and I would look forward to going there, yes. I mean, we need to help. In my case, I very much want to support the Republican Party, and I think we need to help them build back.
Do we put too much emphasis on the personal relationships? We'll see Joe Biden and Boris Johnson there together, and we're all familiar with the protocol setup. But how important is that they get on?
It's crucially important, actually, and I think I came into politics with very little experience, no political experience. But one of the things I've really learned over 11 years is it really does matter how individuals get along, even at the level of grand international politics. You know, people need to know that when they're speaking to one another, they've got common values and they can trust one another. So it really is important that Boris and President Biden get along.
Most people watching you right now are probably much more worried about what's happening to their fuel bills and what's happening with supplies in the supermarkets at the moment. Yeah. Do you think Boris Johnson has got this right? Kwasi Kwarteng says we don't need to worry, but as soon as ministers start saying we don't need to worry, we start to worry.
Well, yeah, I mean, I felt slightly for Kwasi yesterday. It was quite a big gamble for him to say that there wouldn't be any blackouts, and we must hope that he's absolutely right. But I would just observe we're now very, very dependent on wind. We have unusually calm circumstances. There's also been a fire on an electricity interconnector across the channel. Another one's coming on stream. So this is it is, in fact, a perfect storm of calm weather, and that's left us too dependent on gas at a time when the whole economy is coming back and pushing up prices. So it is a perfect storm. I think we need to take steps to increase gas supplies. And I think that Boris is going to need to watch very carefully what happens.
Well, the irony, of course, is he's getting ready for COP26, and you're talking about we need to increase gas supplies.
Well, we are critically dependent on gas. I checked this morning at about 6:25, and 51% of our electricity was coming from gas. But I think we need to face up to using current existing technologies. So, for example, there's something called the Allen cycle, which allows us to capture all the carbon dioxide from burning gas. So that's the sort of thing I'd like to see deployed, which could give us secure and flexible energy at reasonable cost and not leave us in a position like this.
And how will you judge success in America? When Boris Johnson comes home, what will it have taken for you to say, oh, that was a good trip?
I think it's going to be a good trip, but I think I think the Prime Minister's judgment will be that he comes back with the USA looking far more likely to commit on net zero. I mean, I've expressed my own misgivings about the cost of net zero, but what we've got to do here is be realistic. You know, where are the costs going to fall and so on? But for Boris, it's going to be about net zero, getting ready for COP26. It'll be about making progress on trade and, of course, on security.
If China doesn't come, is there any point?
Probably not, no. And I think that China probably isn't ready to do a big deal at COP26, and I think that's going to be a real problem for the Prime Minister, yes.
Well, should he call it off then, if they're saying we're not coming?
I certainly think it should go virtual, bearing in mind the crisis that we've had and the opportunity to save carbon emissions by going virtual. But, you know, I think it's got to, at this stage, it's going to press ahead. There's no point calling for it to be cancelled. Yeah. But let's face up to it. China's the biggest emitter, and they're still building coal-fired plants. And unless China acts, we would end up imposing enormous costs on ourselves. So the real disbenefit of ordinary people. And if China doesn't change, well, it won't do any good. So it's a really crucial moment. What I want is the prosperity of everybody watching this programme and across the country. That does require us to have plentiful gas and electricity at low prices, to use current technologies and to be really careful where all the costs fall.
OK, well, Steve Baker, Conservative MP for Wickham, thank you very much indeed.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today.